Also, it's very important that we get this recording good because this morning I was unable to get any sort of recording on the podium. I had to use the regular podium computer and whatever garbage, I don't know, but was not working. But here I am and everything seems okay for now. All right. So our lecture topic is Google advertising, and we'll do the slideshow and we'll see how much time it takes, and maybe I'll have a little bit more time to talk about a couple other things. So what we'll cover today, Google's advertising operations, revenue models, and some associated things. And then on Thursday, mostly we'll cover this other stuff. We'll do a little bit about fraud detection then. We'll talk some about it. But we'll talk about APIs a little more. We brought them in before. Those are the interfaces that applications use to exchange data. And we'll talk about the databases systems that Google uses for its advertising and related tasks. Okay. Now, is there anybody here who remembers a time before Google? Are there any old people here besides me? What? No, literally before Google. So Google was around something 97, 98. Does anybody actually remember a time before that? I'm just checking. It's interesting, right? When I first started teaching, everybody remembered a time before search engines, and now, yeah. Actually, when I really first started teaching was 04 as a TA, and Google was still kind of new, you know, so that was, yeah. Anyway, all right. So all of you probably know Google simply as a search engine, right? You want to find something, you use Google, you get it. Or you might think of it as a set of cloud-based applications. For example, anybody know what G Suite is? G Suite. Yeah, right, you all use it. So that stuff with Gmail and Drive, all that, that's G Suite, right? And you guys all use that. You might, if you've been paying attention to the news over the last few years, might even recognize them as doing some cutting edge research in self-driving cars. So that's a thing, okay? But, and again, all those things are true, but if you ask me, more than anything else, Google is the world's biggest advertising operation, right? Basically, it's online billboards. So it made $200 billion in 2021, right? That's a lot of money. And it doesn't even make the ads. All it does is figure out where to place the ads. Somebody else makes the ads, and Google says, oh, the people on this page, they're going to want to see this kind of ad. And the people on this page, they're going to want to see this other kind of ad. Okay? And because they did it fast and they did it early, they made bags and bags and bags of money. Okay? That's pretty much the story. Now, you see in the movies sometimes, right? You see a room of people and they have some something they want to figure out. And they come up with, oh, I'm already in. Okay. And they come up with a plan like this. Let's bring up paint. All right. You guys have all seen this before. Let's see. We can make it a little bigger. All right. Step one, build a search engine platform. I'm going to have to start bringing in a supplementary keyboard. This thing is just too damn small. Step two, who knows? And step three, fat stacks of cash, right? You see this kind of thing. Well, for Google, that was their first step, and they wanted to make bags and bags of money at the end. What was the thing in the middle? Well, the thing in the middle was very simply run relevant ads with search results and keep on making them more relevant. Okay? That's pretty much the story. That's what they did. And here we are. All right, so the basic model, as you know, they draw in users for their search engine. Their search engine is very, very good. It delivers relevant results quickly, and people like that, so they come back to use it again. Then Google selects ads that align well with the search terms. For example, somebody's doing a search for life insurance, Google will show ads for life insurance. Somebody's doing a search for shoes, Google will show ads for shoes, right? And Google just simply shows those ads along with the search results, and when users click on them, Google gets paid. That's the model. Any questions on any of this thus far? I'd ask if you'd like to know more, but you're going to learn more, so that's, you know. Okay, so this all sounds pretty simple, but there are a lot of details that have to be figured out, right? Number one, figuring out which ads are aligned with which terms, right? Because it's easy if the search is life insurance and the ads for life insurance, if it's a product, but there are other things that it's a lot murkier, right? And of course, prioritizing ad placement. If you have a lot of different ads for shoes or life insurance, how do you decide which one gets the best spot on the page? And number three, the right price for clicks, right? If you charge too much, the advertisers go away and maybe they partner up with another operation. If you charge too low, you're leaving money on the table. So there's a lot of details here that have to get worked out. Now I'm gonna talk about this in Paint. So we understand that Google likes money, right? How will Google maximize their money on ads? They want to maximize its long-term ad revenue, right? If you were Google and you could do this as a human instead of doing it in some automated system, suppose you could do it as a human, how would you go about selecting which ads go where? What things might you look at? Yeah, I saw, yeah, go ahead. What's that? Who is looking at that? More specific, who's looking at what? Like you can, okay, possibly demographics, right? Now this, I don't think they were doing this right off the bat, but certainly, you know, they're trying to do it now for sure. Okay, what else? Yeah? Yeah, how might they do that? Okay, okay, sure, I'll allow that. All right, so historical search behavior. Okay, and for sure, Google does that now too, right? But again, 1998, they weren't really bringing that in. What else? Anything else? Yeah. Yeah. Once again, this was something that they for sure do now, but 1998 wasn't really on the table yet. All right. So these are all good things, right? These are all sensible things we would want to look at. But what Google had in 1998 or 2000, you know, things that they basically had relevance and click history, right? That's basically it. Which users clicked on which ads and you know what's and going backward. So again, if Google sees that a lot of people are clicking on ads and very few of those people are immediately bouncing back from the website, Google says, well, this ad is pretty popular and people are staying there for a minute. That's a good sign, right? This ad is probably pretty good. If Google shows the ads and nobody's clicking on them, Google's not going to make money off of that, right? So these are the things, this is the big one that they were looking at early on. And these were the things, these were the things that they wanted to do. I'm going to put those in orange. Okay? So we're clear on this? This is the thing. Okay. Now, as far as, I'll go back to Paint. As far as maximizing long-term revenue, I think everyone would be able to understand this that I'm about to say. All right. It's not just the click-through rate, right? Click-through rate is the number of people that are, you know, the percent click. Okay? It's not just the click-through rate. And it's not just the dollars per click, right? Basically, it's the product of those. That's your long-term revenue, right? Your probability of a click times dollars per click. So for example, ad one has a bid, right? That's how much they're paying per click, as a bid per click of $2 and a 5% CTR, click-through rate, okay? That leads to 10 cents per showing. right? Every time Google displays that ad, on average, they're going to get 10 cents per display. You with me so far? Does that make sense? Okay. Ad 2 has a bid per click of $1 and a 10% click-through rate. How much per display on average? Or what's 10% of $1? 10 cents. So in this case, Google might say, these ads are basically equivalent in terms of whatever. I mean, yeah, the one has a higher click rate, but we don't get paid as much. So as far as Google is concerned, it's about the same, right? Now, where does Google figure out this click-through rate? Isn't the only thing they have, though, eventually. So starting off, sure, that was what they basically had, was click-through rate. But eventually, click-through rate can be supplemented by other information about the site. Like basically, is it a good site, a good or legit site? Because Google doesn't want to direct people to crappy sites or scam sites, right? Google wants to show people, hey, this is a site that's good, because you know what happens. If somebody clicks on an ad on Google and it takes them to some scammy thing that tries to rip them off, they're not going to be very trusting of Google ads going forward, are they? So Google wants to pay attention to that. The other thing, purchases. Now, eventually, Google had their free analytics platform, Google Analytics, that a lot of businesses use. They can track this stuff. They can see if the website has set up, we are tracking who is buying what. Google will have this information, and Google knows, right? Paying customers lead to loyal advertising clients, right? If somebody is running a bunch of ads through Google and they can look in there and see that those people visiting their site are having a reasonable prospect of actually buying something on the site, then when it gets more expensive to run those ads, that advertiser is going to be willing to pay more per click. Yes? Sure. So those are the things that Google is looking at. Now, this gets bundled into a thing called the quality score. So the quality score is, if you want to think about it, basically the goodness of the ad and the website, right? If you want to think about it like in a quick phrase like that. So the click-through rate plus, call it CTR, click-through rate, plus that, you bundle all these things together, and that gives a measure not only of how much Google expects to make, but basically the long-term trend going forward, right? That's the quality score, how good the whole ad setup is. Multiply that by the bid, okay? Now, we're gonna do a little bit of math with this now. So again, remember, ad 1, CTR, 10% or 5%, and $2 per click, right? Ad 2 has a click-through rate of 10% and $1 per click. Now, at this point, they both pay 10% per display, so Google kind of doesn't care which one gets displayed, right? Whatever, they're equivalent. Google could flip a coin. But suppose ad 2 decides, well, we need some better stuff, right? We are going to have to pay a little more. So ad 2 says, we want that top spot for how ads are displayed. Ad 2 says, we will bid now up to $2 per click. Okay, so what does that make? Ad 2 now has 10% of $2 per display equals 20 cents. Okay, or yeah, how much will ad 1 have to pay to keep up with that? Ad 1, to keep up, to get their thing up to 20 cents, they must bid $4 per click, right? Because 5% of $4 is likewise 20 cents. So the point is, this model that Google has, if you have a better ad, you don't have to pay as much to grab the top spot, right? Because Google, all else equal, yeah, they want to show better ads, right? If your ad is really good, then Google says, yeah, you know what? You must be good. You're selling a legit product. We can dig around in all your stuff and people are clicking on it. They like it. Fine, that's the one we want to show. Google will take money from these other guys and say, well, yeah, your ad doesn't seem to be running as well, but you pay us enough money. Yeah, sure, we'll run the ad, whatever, right? Okay. So this is all the background for what we're going to talk about now in the slides. And the slides will kind of be a recap at this point. Would anyone like to know more before I go forward? Okay. So first thing, Google's bidding model, right? How Google decides which ads it's going to run where is the ad's quality score. So quality score, again, as a baseline, relevance to search terms, right? Life insurance for ads for the terms life insurance and so on. But again, that leaves you with the question of, well, how are you going to distinguish between the many life insurance providers, right? Or the many different ads, whatever that they might run. Second, how often users click on the ad, right? More clicks means more money for Google. The overall whole ad system setup is better for that ad if people click on it more. And finally, how often the ads lead to a purchase. Again, once Google started getting this information, that was a big deal because, again, any advertiser that's actually getting clear sales through these Google ads is going to be more willing to keep up and pay more and all that. So in general, these three things tend to be correlated. They don't have to be, but more often than not, they are. So if an ad is relevant to search terms and people click on it a lot and it leads to a purchase, it's probably because it's a well-designed ad leading to a popular or well-designed product, right? And displayed properly, all that. So that makes sense. On the other hand, a site that's really half-assing it, they have a so-so ad that's maybe not terribly relevant to the search terms. Maybe people aren't clicking on it that much, and the website, people go there and they're like, I don't know about this, okay? Tends to be also correlated. So goodness and badness, they tend to run together. Now, of course, Google wants to show ads likely to lead to long-term revenue. So all else equal, ads with a higher quality score, they're going to have display priority, right? If you have two ads with the same click-through rate and the same bid, one could still have a higher quality score based on these other factors, right? For example, how often the ad leads to a purchase. But if you want to think about it for now as basically being click-through rate, sure, for purpose of discussion, that's fine. But remember, it includes these other factors. And like the example we gave with the price per click, advertisers can bid for a better position, right? If some ad that's maybe not as high of a quality score wants to be at that prime top position on top of a page, yeah, Google will take the money, but they got to pay more to get that bump. Okay, that was the math example we did. All right. Now, Google has ads that it runs basically on two categories of sites. Number one, basically friends of Google, right? Google itself partners under the Alphabet umbrella like YouTube. In case you don't know, right, many years ago, Google stopped being an independent organization and like there was an umbrella company, Alphabet, that now owns Google and YouTube and such. Anyway, close friends of Google, and of course, business partners that Google is pretty sure not going to try to rip Google off. Okay, that's one. So like I said, close friend, Google and close friends of Google. Second, third-party sites that have agreed to run ads selected by Google. That is basically people that Google knows, right? Not really friends, but some blogger says, hey, Google, I'm writing these blog articles. I'd really like to run some ads on the pages so I can make money for pizza. Please give me ads. And Google will be like, yeah, okay. We don't entirely trust you. You're not besties, but we'll run the ads. That's fine. And the way that factor there creates a different split in how the ads happen. Okay, so the first one, again, ads shown on Google websites, close friends, generally tend to be more trusting. Google is not as concerned with click fraud there. And ads shown on other sites, Google tends to be quite concerned with click fraud, right? The idea there, imagine if you're an unemployed blogger and you say, I have this blog, I'm running ads on it. What's to stop the blogger from clicking on the ads himself to get Google to ultimately pay him some money, right? So Google's concerned about that. Obviously, Google's not going to click on its own ads in search results because it would just be stealing money from itself, right? The advertisers would say, yeah, we'll pay you more now for these clicks, but the advertisers would see that the actual people coming to the website aren't buying as much stuff, and so they'd lose advertiser loyalty there. Anyway, other key point, Google search results are pure. Okay, what that means, Google will take money to run ads in any given place, right? No matter how crappy your ad is, as long as it's for a legit product and a legit website, you can pay Google enough that you'll get that top position. But Google search results, you can't buy for that. So that leads to this other thing called search engine optimization, or SEO. Anybody ever heard of SEO? What do you know about SEO? Okay. Okay, I think there was the correct answer in there, all a little jumbled, but that's okay. This is the importance of clarity of knowledge, right? So remember, when you're at a job interview one day and someone asks you, what do you know about search engine optimization? You should be able to like rattle off a very clear answer, right? I mean, you had all the stuff there. The idea with SEO is simply this, right? Search engine optimization. You want your site to rank high in Google search results, or for any search engine, but Google's, you know, the one obviously, because it's free, right? Clicks on ads cost money. So if you can get people to click on your search listing instead of an ad, that's free traffic and that's great, right? Now, the reason why SEO is important, 20 years ago, online advertising was fairly cheap, and a lot of businesses, you know, it was easy for them to make money using online advertising. Now, there's so many businesses running so many ads, it's really hard to stand out. So what you want to do is somehow redesign your site so that you place high for the set of searches that tend to bring in customers who actually spend money. I teach a web analytics graduate course, and lately we've been starting getting some medical people in there that want to advertise their practice. So I had a dentist a couple years ago, and she had an office in Little Italy here, you know, right by UIC, and she was having this problem. She was like, you know, I can't just run ads, you know, for Dentist Chicago because, you know, there's so many dentists running ads, you know, it's prohibitively expensive. It doesn't make sense. But I'm having trouble figuring out which ads to run. And I said, well, yeah, you want to, first of all, look at what search terms are actually bringing people to your site. That's information that Google Analytics will give you. So you'll see things like maybe people are searching for, you know, dentist operations like dentist near UIC, right? Or dentist Little Italy, or, you know, dentist, I don't know if this is the intersection, but, you know, Taylor and, what is that? I'm thinking Womack, but it's not Womack. Wolcott, maybe, right? What, I don't know where she's at, but stuff like that. And you redesign your site to include those words in prominent places like page titles and headers and image metadata, all the things that Google is going to look at, and you can rank high on those searches. And by the end of the course, she was saying, yeah, for all, you know, for the things she wanted to rank high on, her site was pretty much #1 or #2. So she was happy. But this is what SEO is. This is the alternative to running ads. Again, if you can get that traffic to your site for free, that's great. But, you know, a lot of businesses still do have to run ads for places too. Okay, good. Now, the two programs Google has, #1, Google Ads. So Google Ads is for advertisers. If an advertiser wants to run ads through Google, it joins up with Google Ads. And any ads that an advertiser sends to Google could be displayed with Google's regular search results or other non-search Google properties, for example, like Google Maps. They make advertising revenue there. Websites of close Google affiliates like YouTube, and of course, websites not affiliated with Google. So once upon a time, Google's ads basically just ran with search results. But now there's a whole bunch of different places where Google might run ads, and advertisers don't really just pick one. I mean, they have a certain amount of latitude to opt out of certain programs, but in general, if an advertiser gives their ad to Google, they expect that Google might show their ads on any of these places where it seems appropriate. The other program is AdSense. So AdSense is for content creators. For example, think bloggers. If you are a blogger and you want to make a little bit of money off of blogging, you can join up with AdSense, and essentially what you'll do there is register with Google and say, hey Google, I will let you run a bunch of ads on my pages in these designated boxes on those pages. Okay? So, last thing for this, primarily Google uses pay per click, right? The basic model, somebody clicks on an ad, the advertiser pays Google. That's the model that happens. Okay, there are other models, but pay per click is far and away the big one. All right, and I have a tree, so now you get a tree. So Google Ads has all these places where ads might be shown, and they have their different attributes. So number one, if Google is showing ads along with search results, along with its own search results, number one, those ads are going to be, Google's not going to click on those ads itself, right? So in that sense, it's trusted, it's Google itself. There used to be a separate program called AdWords. AdWords, the function still exists, but it's not called AdWords anymore. Okay, but back when, running ads with search results was pretty much all Google did, it made sense to have a special name for that. And it uses search terms. Search terms are a really good predictor of ad interest, right? So Google can say, you looked at life insurance, and life insurance is a great one. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But Google knows, people don't really search for life insurance unless they're buying it, right? That's one of those things you'd be unlikely to. Yeah. Anyway, so because search terms are used, Google has a really good idea of what people are looking for and can show ads along with that. Google properties without search, again, they're going to be trusted, right? Google's not going to steal money from itself, but it needs some kind of content analysis. And content analysis just doesn't work as well, right? If you're looking at, for example, some other kind of page that doesn't involve search terms, you don't have as clear of an idea of what somebody is looking for, right? So for example, suppose it's in Google Maps and somebody is looking for restaurants. You might just show them a bunch of different restaurants. You don't know what specific kind of restaurant. It's going to be a little dicier, right? And there's other kinds of content analysis that are definitely murkier. For example, if suppose there's some segment of Google Marketplace where you're looking for, I don't know, bicycles, right? And the bicycle you happen to be looking for is like a new 10-speed for your kid that just turned 12 and they're getting their first 10-speed, right? You know that, you know what you're looking for, but Google doesn't know what you're looking for. So even if you're looking at, that stuff, that ads, Google could show you all kinds of ads that aren't really speaking to you, right? They could show you advanced beryllium bikes, or they could show you, some little, first training bike for a 4-year-old, whatever. It's going to be harder to figure out exactly what you're looking for, even within that narrow scope. Okay, close affiliates of Google, again, like YouTube, they're going to be trusted, but they often need content analysis. And this is one that was always kind of, so when our kids were little, we did the thing that people say you should do and not give them any screen time for the first 2 years. But, once they turned 2, we let them watch some YouTube. And my son, when he was 2, his big first thing was watching fire engines, right? There'd be these like 5 or 10 minutes of just endless fire engines roaring down the road going, woo, woo, woo. And, he'd sit still and watch it. He was kind of fascinated for a while. But the ads that YouTube showed with those were wildly inappropriate for 2-year-olds, right? There'd be like horror movie stuff, there'd be like a sequel to The Grudge or something, or there'd, be very adult movies, not like porn or anything because it's YouTube, but adult situations. And I'm like, wow, how does this line up with a 2-year-old? I mean, obviously they're showing it, because they think the parents are interested, but still, I felt like it would have made more sense to run ads for like kids' cartoons or stuff like that. But maybe Google was doing the best they could. I don't know. Or, it doesn't make sense. Like you go to watch some music video about something or other, and you see an ad for drain cleaner, right? How does this happen? I don't know. Okay, but they're doing the best they can. Whatever. Of course, last one, other websites. Again, least trusted because any of those bloggers could be trying to steal money from the advertisers, and almost always need content analysis, right? If you're running, so for example, suppose Google has life insurance ads. If it's a life insurance site doesn't want to run life insurance ads. They've already got you on the site. They want you to buy their life insurance, right? But what kind of blog would actually make sense to run life insurance ads, right? Maybe something that's like for new parents, because a lot of times, if you're a new parent, maybe you didn't worry about life insurance before. You worked, your spouse worked, but then you have that first kid and you're like, oh yeah, shit, we need life insurance in case one of us kicks it, right? So that might make sense, but the content analysis is harder to do for a lot of products. All right. Now, ads with search results, again, formerly called AdWords. In that model, advertisers would pay for placement with some search terms or groups of terms, whatever. And the first thing is relevance. Google tries to figure out how close of a match the ad is for this particular set of search terms. And number two, the advertiser bids, right? So the individual advertisers, they say, we are willing to bid like 50 cents a click for the search term Michigan Avenue shoes. What happened, AdWords was created about 20 years ago. And at first businesses had a lot of, it wasn't too bad for them to make money using it. But what happens is the program massively grew. And because the program massively grew, it got crowded, right? Everybody wants that one spot at the top of the page. And if there's only a few people, for a particular set of unusual search terms, it's pretty easy to bid your way up to that. But when there's a lot of bidders on that set of search terms, people got to pay more, right? Because you can't really share space at the top. One of the things that really drove that, in 2005, Google released their free and wonderful Google Analytics web analytics platform. So anybody who was running ads through Google, the key thing why Google did that, number one, to build loyalty. So advertisers could see which search terms were bringing people to their site, how much people were spending on their site, what ads were bringing people to their site, how much those people were spending. Basically, advertisers could see, oh, we're spending money with Google, but we're more than making it back. This is great. We'll stay on. That was the big reason why Google did it. But of course, once a lot of these businesses have Google Analytics and they start setting up their analytics to track who buys what, then Google has this information about purchases, right? Google can see stuff about purchases, who's buying what, knowing that people who buy things from the advertisers are going to make the advertisers happy and spend more time on Google. They even do a certain amount of looking into the structure of the website itself to evaluate whether the website is a good one or a junky one, right? So they get a lot more information to work with about quality scores as well. Anyway, all that drove a lot more AdWords users. So consequences from that, number one, a lot of businesses started redesigning their sites to improve relevance, right? When the price of AdWords starts going up, they say, what used to make business sense a few years ago is too expensive now. We have to do some search engine optimization so our site ranks higher in ordinary search. Second, they have to start paying a lot more attention to ad effectiveness, right? It might be that they were kind of coasting along, assuming everything was fine, but it can very quickly change that terms that used to be profitable suddenly no longer are because a few other businesses jump in and are outbidding you. Yeah. Anyway, so it started entailing a lot more work for businesses. All right. Now, as far as AdWords history, AdWords originated in 2000. And it was actually outside Google. Google did not invent it. Now, this is an interesting thing. So I'm not saying Google stole the idea from anyone, but I'm definitely not saying Google didn't steal the idea, okay? So there were some lawsuits, they got settled out of court, which is usually a case of saying, yeah, we did some stuff we shouldn't have, but let's just get this over with, okay? That seems to be what has happened there. Now, having said that, there's a whole lot of history of intellectual property theft in technology. Does anyone know that Microsoft didn't actually invent Windows? Well, Bill Gates actually contracted with some other interface designer to design the interface for Windows. I'm not saying they didn't design any of it, but the look of it, the interface that you actually use, yeah, they contracted outside of Microsoft for somebody to design that. How about that? Okay, not theft, it was paid for, but it was paid for under, they didn't really explain to the guy that, oh, we're going to use this and it's going to be a major thing and we're going to make billions of dollars off of it, you know? Likewise with Google, you know, it was 2000, it was the dot-com bust. There's some strangeness in there. So first of all, you know, a lot of these people knew each other, school together, hung out, worked, you know, various places. They knew each other. And so what happens in that kind of situation is people get together, they go out to the bars, they talk, you know, they say, oh, what are you guys working at? Oh, we're doing some stuff with ads and blah, blah, blah. And say, oh, cool, yeah, we're doing some of that kind of stuff too. You know, word gets around. Not that anybody's necessarily doing anything awful. The other thing, people leave companies all the time. This was the dot-com bust, you know, so a lot of those tech companies were collapsing. Workers were going other places. Workers in many times were going other places anyway because they saw the writing on the wall or Google made them a better offer. And sure, their old company makes them sign some kind of non-disclosure agreement, but that's really hard to monitor when that person is not actually working at your place anymore. You know, and Google will say, well, yeah, you signed this non-disclosure agreement, but you know how to do algorithms and stuff. So hypothetically, if we asked you to do this kind of stuff for us, you could do it, right? Anyway, that's the sort of stuff that happened with all this. Anyway, and Google paid some money. Now, Google no longer uses the AdWords label. That happened a few years ago. I don't know, about 3, 4, 5 years ago. They stopped using AdWords and they just bundled it all in as Google Ads. Okay, but of course the functions remain. You can go to Google, do a search, and you'll see ads along with it. Currently, it's Google's main revenue source. It used to be 70-75% of Google's revenue came from AdWords. Now the numbers are a lot harder to get to. Number one, because Google's only part of Alphabet now, and so you really got to dig through the reports to figure it out. And number two, because of all these other things, all these other ways that Google can generate this kind of ad revenue, like on Google Maps and stuff, it's not always very clearly separated into those components. But, you know, if you want like a ballpark number, something like 70% of Google's revenue is probably from AdWords. And it creates a virtuous cycle, right? So a virtuous cycle basically means because things are good, they keep on getting better, right? So what happens, Google does a really good job of targeting. So when I say high ad quality, I mean it's showing the right ads to the right people that are likely to click. So high ad quality leads to high revenues. If Google's showing the right ads to people, they're more likely to click. Google gets paid more, allowing Google to reinvest in systems to keep on getting high ad quality, okay? So we'll talk about this very briefly. A little bit of math behind that. So imagine Google. Suppose Google makes 100 billion from AdWords, and they can implement some system improvements that cost $1 billion, but increase revenue by 1%. Does this sound good? Does that sound good for Google? Yeah, because most of that $1 billion is just going to be profit, right? The platform's already built. So every year they're making an extra $1 billion or more. They'll probably pay this off, you know, within 2 years, right? Which is a really good, you know, payback term. However, let's talk about Bing. Suppose Bing makes 10 billion from ads, and they could implement the same system that costs $1 billion and increases revenue by 1%, right? Suddenly, not so good, right? About 100 million extra per year means it might be 10 or 20 years to pay back, right? I mean, definitely that's on, maybe it's a good idea, but it's definitely kind of, you know, it's not like a clear-cut slam dunk win like the first case is, right? So because Google is big, these little incremental improvements in their system yield big cash results, right? Not really the case for Bing. It's cost effective for Google to chase these expensive 1% improvements, for its competitors not so much. That's why Google search results are better. All right. The other thing, extensible, right? So AdWords, the framework, provided a set of rules that could adapt to a changing online environment, right? Well, let's think, what has changed a lot in the last 20 years online? What are some things? I mean, I get if nobody remembers the time pre-Google, but you probably have an awareness. What's different now from 20 years ago online? What are some, anything? Faster. How is that helping Google? Sure, I'll give you that. But in particular in terms of ads, because people have fast connections, what can you do with ads that you couldn't do 20 years ago when a lot of people were still on shitty dial-up? You could run more ads, that's one. What about, do you think most ads in 2000 would have had like high resolution pictures? No, because those pictures might be a few megs of data, and a few megs of data on a shitty dial-up connection would literally take 20 minutes to load. You're not waiting 20 minutes for search results, okay? So because connections are faster, Google can show these lots of ads, but also lots of pretty eye-catching ads that people say, oh, that looks nice, I'll click on that, right? If Google can show you an ad with a picture of the thing, people are a lot more likely to click on that than just some text, okay? Good, what else? What else has changed in 20 years? Yeah, sure, more ads, but I mean, that kind of bundles, I mean, more advertisers, that helps Google, right? Because it drives the price up. We've talked about that. I'll give you that. How so? Okay. Sure. All right. Google has, let's say that Google has more fine-grained analysis available of who's interested in what ads, right? Because maybe there are substantial differences between people who use voice versus not voice, or, you know, mobile versus not mobile, things like that. Sure. What about the set of users? Are there more or less users now than 20 years ago on the internet? A lot more, right? Sure. And that means if there are a lot more users, Google's going to gather a lot more data and have a lot more accurate predictions about who's going to click on what, right? More data you have means you can come up with better answers. So again, AdWords and some examples for that, all this stuff with Google Analytics, right? Figuring out who's actually buying stuff on the sites versus who isn't. That's something. Anyway, all right, so we'll talk more about that in a moment. But Bing and Yahoo, you know, similar business models at the time. Now it's kind of merged into Bing, which again is the sad competitor to Google, but it still exists. So they're kind of doing the same thing, just they're about 20 years behind Google. Maybe 10, maybe 15. All right. Anyway, Google wants to maximize its total revenue from selling ad space, right? We've established that Google likes money. Two ways to do that. Number one, they could just charge more per unit of ad space. That's one of those things that's kind of like a short-term gain for a long-term loss, right? If Google really, you know, racked up the charges there, yeah, advertisers would eat it for a little while, but eventually that would create an opening for them to say, yeah, you know what, Google's charging too much, we're going to go somewhere else or find other avenues to advertise, maybe not even online. Instead, Google really wants to prioritize the ads that are more likely to lead to sales, right? So ads that people click on and thus lead to sales, the advertisers are going to be happy, they're going to be willing to pay more to Google. Okay, that's essentially what Google wants to do. They want to show high quality ads with a, you know, a history of actual, you know, good customers. Now, some additional concerns. Number one, Google doesn't want to lock in rates in any kind of bad way. When I say suboptimal, that could mean the rates are too low or they're too high. So suppose you're running a half-page ad in the Chicago Tribune. Does it matter what product you're advertising? Are they going to charge you the same rate or a different rate? You would expect the same rate, right? Yeah. For Google, it doesn't make sense to do that. For example, if you're running ads on shoes, you know, you're probably not going to make much more than 20 bucks on a typical shoe ad, right? Maybe the shoe costs in the high double digits, you know. The shoe manufacturer is not going to be willing to pay much more than 20 bucks per click under the best of circumstances. On the other hand, life insurance is one of those things you only look for it when you're ready to buy it. And so if you're somebody who's looking for life insurance, chances are you're ready to buy. Number two, there's a whole lot less, there are many fewer life insurance providers than there are shoemakers. So there's that. You're going to buy from one of them. And number three, it's a much bigger purchase, right? So right now I pay about 150 bucks a quarter for my life insurance up until such time as I kick it. Uh, but you know, it could be more, and it could be over decades. And so life insurance people, they might very easily be willing to pay a few $100s per click because they know if they get that, right, there's a good chance that it's going to be an actual customer, and there's a good chance that that actual customer is going to make a very expensive purchase. So doesn't make sense to charge wouldn't make sense to charge the same rate for different products. Number two, letting advertisers bid against each other. The best way to figure out a fair price of what Google should charge for the ads is simply to let these advertisers bid against each other, right? You don't want to pick a flat rate and say, yeah, any ad, we'll charge you $1 per click. Let the advertisers bid against each other and see what it goes up to, okay? And again, this especially makes sense with the long-term trend of more internet users, more advertisers competing over a fairly fixed set of search terms, right? You know the prices are going to drift upward. Let them drift upward. Third one, Google's gone back and forth with that. So at first, Google let the advertisers pick which terms they wanted to bid on. Then at some point, Google said, you know what, that's a lot of work for you guys. We're going to pick the terms where your ads get shown. But then the advertiser said, if you're calculating ad quality score based on who's clicking on our ads, and you're showing our ads along with search terms where it doesn't make sense for it to be shown, you're artificially pushing down our ads quality score, and that sucks and we don't like it. So eventually Google came back and said, oh, okay, we'll let you guys pick, that makes sense. We'll let you pick your own search terms. And that's where things are right now. Okay. Of course, saturating the ad space, where there's a reason to show ads, Google will do it. Last I checked, the lowest bid that Google would entertain for a click is a quarter. So if there's nobody there who's willing to pay a quarter per click for an ad with some search results, yeah, Google won't have any ads to show. But otherwise, there's always going to be some ads. And last, in general, the things we've talked about, taking advantage of the expanding online domain. More advertisers, more users, more available data for better predictions about who will click on what. All that sort of stuff is built into AdWords, right? This very simple framework of quality score of the ad times the bid, it's extensible that way. You can just include more factors in the quality score. All right. Simple diagram of how it all works. Google has a database full of ads that advertisers have sent. Google also has a database about search terms and which ads have performed well with which search terms. So when somebody generates a Google search page, what happens? Well, Google's ad allocator says, yep, we have this many ads. We can show them. We'll put some above the search results, some below. On occasion, you can find some in the middle. That's where that happens. All right, so I'm going to do a quick check. We're going to see, tried to do pizza delivery this morning, but it didn't get anything because, 10 o'clock's a little early to order pizza, I guess, but we'll try it now. Pizza delivery. Oh yeah, now we're getting the ads. All right. So there, let's see, scrounge down. We saw some at the top. Oh, not many. Is that one? Oh yeah, home run in. Huh, how about that? Okay. So there you go, right? And you know how Google ads work. I don't need to, or how they appear with search results. All right, so the basic process again, viewers click ads, Google updates its allocation data, and the advertisers pay Google. That's where the money comes from. All right, now later today I will post this. It's a business case about AdWords. So it was this operation called Blue Creek Cabins. It was cabin rental in rural Georgia. I lifted it word for word from a New York Times newspaper article from about 10 years ago. But it explains, it gives kind of some concrete information of this drift they went through. They started on pretty early, I think around 03, using AdWords, and it was great. There weren't a lot of similar businesses like cabin rental businesses in the area using AdWords, so they didn't have to pay very much for the clicks. But over time, more people started joining up, and the bid prices went high, and he had to go through some, basically some kind of learning experience where he figured out how to use Google better. So anyway, the exam will not directly test on this article, but it may help some of this stuff be a little bit more concrete. All right, we'll talk about it on Thursday. All right, the other thing to talk about is AdSense. So AdSense, again, the idea is you're a content creator. You know that if you write something interesting or entertaining, in some fashion, it's going to appear on some other site, right? Or you can't really charge for it. Nobody's going to pay for subscriptions, right? If the Chicago Tribune can't get people to pay $1 for a year's subscription to the Tribune, and YouTube can't get people to pay for like $10 for, a month's worth of ad-free YouTube, what chance does some ordinary blogger have? Nobody's paying for subscriptions. And if you write something interesting, what's going to happen? Some other dude on there is going to grab it and they're going to post it on their own site, and they're not even going to like lift your entire article so that it, it's clearly stealing. They're going to do something like, oh, here's some best of the internet. Here's some really funny stuff we have. And they're going to mention the funniest or best parts from your article, and they're going to, throw in a token link to your site. You could click here if you want to read the whole thing. Yeah. So anyway, it's really hard for content creators to make money on the internet. Now, 25 years ago, everybody kind of knew that the way it would happen is there would be ads, just like there's ads for radio, there's ads for TV, there's ads for newspapers. Content creation would be paid for by advertising. But the problem was, advertising in circa 1997 was crap. It was totally unfocused. You showed the same ad to everybody, and a lot of those ads were junky and garbagey. I remember sometime around 99, my curiosity finally got the better of me. There was a big banner ad at the top of some page, one of those ones that flashes black and red and white, boop, 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 click, and it said something like, congratulations, you are the millionth person to visit this site. Click here and you get your free fabulous prize. You could get a desktop or a trip to Hawaii or $500 cash, right? And I was like, yeah, okay. And I knew it was a scam, because down in the bottom corner of the page, I could see this page has been visited 23 times since its creation. So, yeah, I knew I wasn't the millionth visitor, but I was like, oh, let's see what this is about. And I go in, and it's basically this long rabbit hole of demographic information gathering. So they're asking me all kinds of like marketing survey questions, and I get like 8 pages into this, and I'm finally like, fuck, I quit. I'm done. And after that, you never click on another banner ad ever again, right? You saw what it was, and yeah. So anyway, this was the problem, is number one, the ads weren't targeted. So, very few people that saw the ads would be interested in the product. And a lot of the ads were scammy on top of that. So nobody wanted to do it. So the revenue model, though, for AdSense, again, Google, some blogger, some content creator contacts Google and says, hey, I'd like to make some money. I'm going to reserve these spots on my page where you can run ads. Anytime somebody loads that page, Google fills them up with ads the person can see, right? And of course, when viewers click the ads, the advertiser pays Google. Google pays the site owner a chunk of the revenue. All right. Now, in AdSense, the ad selection process is going to be different from AdWords. And the big thing is it's mostly going to be based on site content, not search terms, right? The simple reason is people go to websites all the time without using search. So, if you have, say, I really like what this blogger is doing, I'm going to favorite this site. Every time I go there, Google's going to show ads, but Google doesn't have any search data to link to what the person is looking for. So how does Google figure out what to show? Well, in some cases it can make sense, but in other cases it's very difficult. In general, this kind of matching based on site content is a lot tougher than it is based on search terms, because Google has to figure out what the site is about and then try to figure out which ads line up with that reasonably well. It's not a perfect system. It's not great, but perfection is not essential. It doesn't have to be perfect matching. It just has to be good enough for Google to make money. And for a long time, AdSense was close to 20% of Google's revenue. When AdWords was about 70-75%, AdSense tended to be about 15-20%. At this point, I'm guessing it's probably closer to 15%, but again, I don't have close numbers on this lately. Everything I have is a few years old. Anyway, AdSense, though, very popular with bloggers, right? Because they have a way to make money off their blogging, a little bit of money. Promotion aggregators. So, for example, suppose you have a site where you're, like Priceline or Travelocity or something, and you could say, hey, you're going on vacation. Here's some other stuff you might be interested in while you're on vacation there, okay? Or other informational sites. Any site without a revenue stream that would like one can have Google run some ads on there, and hopefully people click on the ads and pay the site. All right, so the basic model for this, again, we have advertisers. They send ads to Google. Google keeps them in a database. Google also has a database of web page data. all these page tags, right? What Google figures out, here's what the page is about, and all of these ad tags, here's what the ads are about. And they try to do the best they can as far as matching those. In general, you get categories. If you're doing AdSense, you get to pick like some tags from a pre-existing set that describe what your ad is, what your product is about. And Google will do the best it can. You know, again, it's not perfect. For example, you might be reading a site about, I don't know, running, right? And Google will try to sell you some high-end running shoes on that site. Sure, running shoes are reasonably relevant, but maybe you're just doing a little bit about, you know, running to see if this might be something you're into, or you're trying to see what the hell is wrong with people. Why would anyone put themselves through that, right? It's not always clear. If somebody's searching, you know, buy running shoes, Google knows you're looking to buy running shoes, right? But the vast majority of people looking at, you know, some marathon site are probably not immediately in the market for shoes. They might be down the road. All right. Anyway, same kind of process. There's some page content. The website owner gets to designate boxes on that page where Google can run ads. And the same basic model, right? Google selects the ads to appear on the page. Viewer clicks on those ads. The advertiser pays Google. Google gives a cut to the blogger or the site owner. All right. Questions on any of that stuff? Any aspect of that not make sense? Would you like to know more? No? All right. Okay. So, let's see. Yeah, this will be the last one we cover then. This is where I cut it off for the other one. We had some technical difficulties and I didn't get the ball rolling for about several minutes. Anyway, okay. So as far as payment models, there's three main ones. Number one, pay-per-click we've already talked about. That's the second one in the list. The first one in the list is pay per impression. That's the one, anytime a pair of eyeballs sees the ad, Google gets paid. And that makes sense for certain products that nobody's going to go right away and buy, right? So for example, you're doing a search for buy new running shoes. Google can say, yeah, okay, we'll show you some ads of running shoes. People will click on that. That'll make sense, right? But other stuff, what's an example of something where it might get advertised, but there's probably no way somebody's going out to buy that thing right away or spend money on that thing? Okay. I saw a hand. Yeah, okay. I'll give you that, right? Buying a car is like tipping over a vending machine, right? You got to rock it back and forth for a while. But sure, a lot of people look at cars without really intending to buy. What about a movie that's a few months away, right? There's some new Marvel movie that, you know, whatever, and they want to get some buzz around it. So they show some ads online, right? They know it's still a couple months away. Nobody's going to buy tickets for it that day because you don't know what you're doing in 2 months, right? But they still want to create some buzz, right? Political ads often fall into that thing too, right? So they'll show some stuff. I mean, yeah, you can click on them and go to donate money to so-and-so's campaign, but most people don't. All right. So anyway, that's the idea for pay per impression. Google gets paid every time it shows the ad. What else? I guess in a lot of cases, things like McDonald's, right? If McDonald's wants to, say Burger King, right? I did try the ghost pepper burger. It was pretty good. If Burger King wants to create awareness of that, they know chances are you see a Burger King ad, you're not going out to buy Burger King just from seeing that ad, right? But they let you know, hey, there's this new ghost pepper burger. All right. The last one is when a purchase happens. That's what's called pay per conversion. So in web analytics terms, a conversion or a goal conversion is where somebody does something on your website that you want them to do. And if you're a retail site, that typically just means a purchase, right? Or something else leading to a purchase, like setting up an appointment to talk with a salesperson or something. Anyway, so that one takes a lot of the risk out of the equation. So pay-per-click is by far the most common usage. Number one, it's easy to track the results, right? For Google, that's like a happy thing. And even if the site isn't using Google Analytics, Google still knows who clicks on the ad. Without Google Analytics, mostly they can't tell who's buying stuff. And it shares the risk. It puts some risk on Google because Google shows the ads without knowing if anybody's going to click on them or not. But it also puts some risk on the advertiser because they have to pay if somebody clicks, whether that person buys something or not. Okay, so there's some shared risk there. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Thursday. Now, click-through rates, if you think about them in your own experience, you got to know that they're super low. So for even for a well-targeted ad, right, you're showing the right ad to the right people, typical numbers like 1 to 3%. 1% is fine, 3% is really good. I mean, and just think about this. All the Google searches you've maybe done in the last week, and imagine how many ads you've seen, and how many of those ads did you actually click on, right? Probably not very many, unless you are actually looking to buy something at that moment in time. So for most other online ads that aren't targeted, typically way less than 1%, like around the order of 0.1%. And that even includes the fact that about half the ad clicks that happen are accidental. So, you know, the numbers are very low. And the way Google makes money, right, it's worth it to go to all this effort to try to show the right ads to the right people, because they're making 30 times as much money, right? First of all, that 3%, the majority of those clicks are actually real clicks, not accidental, but they're getting 30 times as many clicks, and a lot of those other clicks are bad ones. So anywhere from like 30 to 100 times more effective by this ad targeting process. That's why Google makes a lot more money than these other operations do. They have a lot better track record of, you know, sending ads to people who actually are interested in them at the right time. Okay, and this seems like a good break point. So I don't know, it seems like nobody has any questions because I've explained everything so thoroughly. That's super. And I'll see you all on Thursday. All right.